So now let us expose again for the nth time the transparency strategy. The transparency strategy that the Philippine Coast Guard National Task Force on West Philippine Sea spokesman Commodore J. Tariela is now claiming to be a Philippine government strategy is actually the plan of ex-U.S. Air Force Colonel Raymond Powell of the United States Naval Research Office Gordian Knot Center for National Security Innovations that has been called the MUSU project to the aim of which is, quote, exact reputational cost, unquote, on China through, quote again, assertive transparency, unquote. This is the next slide that shows this is from the U.S. Naval Institute. We have the Project MUSU, and under Project MUSU, and the team leader of Project MUSU is Raymond Powell, Colonel Raymond Powell. You will see more of him in a while. There is also the operation lighting up sea light. It's called sea light, to light up so-called maritime gray zone. As an independent civil society-led initiative, Project MUSU supports U.S. goal, not Philippine goal, to expose and deter China's gray zone activities through application of what Powell calls assertive transparency. MUSU helps counter the asymmetric advantage of China. So inherent in that line is the admission by even the United States Naval Intelligence that China enjoys asymmetric advantage in this theater of operation of the Americans. And this, I will read further. The MUSU project was presented by the Strap-based Albert Del Rosario Institute in January 2023 and imposed on President Marcos Jr. in February 2023 upon his return from his state visit to China. We have more details about that. Reported threats from ex-General Carlito Galvez and the ex-General, now National Security Council Director General, if I'm not mistaken about the name of the title, Eduardo Año, threatening a coup against President Marcos if this was not implemented. Now we say clearly it is reportedly because we also have to transmit this report to the public and request the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and other relevant committees to take note of this and call for an investigation of these reports. So it was presented to the Strat-based Albert Del Rosario Institute in January. In February, upon his return from his state visit to China, he was pressured to approve all this, including, of course, the well-known approval for the additional U.S. EDCA bases. Shortly thereafter, deliberate challenges to China's exercise of sovereignty by the Philippine Coast Guard started, and these continued to December 2023. This proved to be of no avail, however, as the Philippine Coast Guard could not break China's blockade of construction materials delivery to the Ayungin Shoal stranded vessel BRP Sierra Madre. On February 7, 2024, Tariela was headlined to say, look at this, transparency efforts not enough to compel China to obey, unquote, obey what? International law as interpreted by Tariela, or the arbitration award that even the United Nations said it does not recognize. In other words, the U.S. Naval Intelligence Project MUSU has proven a complete failure after a year of operation. Hence, the Department of Foreign Affairs resumed its serious dialogue with China. The resumption of dialogue with China, which happened during the 8th Bilateral Consultation Mechanism talks, has restored the calm and peaceful resupply missions of humanitarian provisions to the BRP Sierra Madre and rotation of troops But the U.S. plan to set up the combined forward operating base Sierra Madre has once again become a dream that is too far difficult to achieve because the United States has announced that it intends to convert BRP Sierra Madre to a combined forward operating base for American intervention in the region. The admission of failure, we hear from Tariela himself, the mouthpiece of Raymond Powell in the Philippines. Now, we will present to you the undisguised U.S. interference in the Philippines, which mainstream media seems to just accept and allow, which so-called patriotic senators do not protest, except for a few. I think Senator Amy Marcos is one of them, and probably the only one who has aggressively denounced this intervention and interference of the Americans in the affairs, internal affairs, and foreign affairs of the Republic of the Philippines. And we will show the temerity of the U.S. in doing this. The temerity of U.S. military intelligence, if we can now present the first slide in this segment. The temerity of U.S. military intelligence forces to interfere in domestic Philippine affairs is a sight to behold. Right in front of everybody's nose. Shamelessly, it is accepted by senators, congressmen, civil society leaders, media people. Project Mushu team leader Colonel Raymond Powell is an, quote, in your face, unquote, presence, belligerent in the Philippines, lording it over in tri-media, in the programs 24/7, 24 hour days, 7 days a week, in ANC, 24 Horas, the TV talk show, and other broadcast networks and newspaper interviews and panel talks. And this interference is shamelessly accepted by so many in Philippine media. Despite the obvious failure of shaming China and, quote, gathering international support against China, unquote, Raymond Powell claims his project has complicated things for China. But really, it is the Philippines that is suffering from the loss of Chinese investments and infrastructure building assistance, thus setting back, quote, build better more, unquote, by years and years. Our wiser ASEAN neighbors have kept a far distance away from this provocative stance of the Philippines. So what international support is this Project Mushu gaining for the Philippines? It is complicating things for the Philippines. Even as the DFA de-escalates, it is publicly contradicted by alien American Raymond Powell, who is announcing in international, social, and Philippine media the, quote, institutionalization, unquote, of the strategy of, quote again, assertive transparency, unquote, that is reiterated robotically by the Philippine Coast Guard's Tariela and buttressed by the Philippine Defense Secretary with his announcement of troop increases to the Batanes Island that is facing Taiwan and the Basi Straits. Interfering brazenly in the affairs of the region, Raymond Powell tells the ANC audience that the ASEAN is useless in the South China Sea issues, but he advises the Philippines not to bring the West Philippine Sea issue to the United Nations as it would lose its case there. This contradicts the calls of the staunch West Philippine Sea arbitration advocate Justice Antonio Carpio and Senator Risa Hontiveros to bring the matter to the UN General Assembly. But let me reiterate, even the Americans know the West Philippine Sea issue does not have the legitimacy to even get it to the first base of UN General Assembly discussions. Tariela and Raymond Powell want the, quote, transparency strategy, unquote, to continue in 2024. Their actions are what Einstein said about about insanity. Quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Unquote. A continuation of the transparency strategy benefits only the Americans who want to sour Philippine-China relations and ASEAN centrality and restore a chance for U.S. hegemony to return.